Comanche, hear this warning. The day of iron is coming, and the desert will remember every step. Before the first shot, know this hook of truth. Steel bleeds too, and pride burns hottest of all. Dawn split the horizon like a blade, and the wind carried dust heavy with unspoken names. The Comanche watched from the mesas, patient as stone, measuring the heartbeat of danger. Below, iron soldiers marched in columns, sun flashing on rifles like lies turned to light. Their wagons rattled with cannon and chains, a music of conquest that deafened their mercy. Horses snorted at the smell of oil and powder, uneasy with the taste of metal in the air. A scout raised 2 fingers to the ridge. Wait. Let the desert finish its slow decision. The captain checked his watch, certain the land kept time for him like a well-trained drum. A Comanche elder traced a circle in dust, whispering that circles outlast straight lines. The bugle cut the morning into orders. Echoes fell like broken promises on sand. Comanche riders slipped from shadow to light, small storms rising under their hooves. The first volley cracked, heat fluttered, the desert flinched, and then stood witness again. Arrows arced high, dark threads sowing judgment across a bright and careless sky. The soldiers fired back, smoke crowding the sun, turning noon into a bruised twilight. A young rider swept the flank, hair streaming, eyes fixed where fear could not follow. Bullets stitched the air, ponies leapt, the ground drank the grammar of another empire. A cannon boomed, rolling thunder through stone ribs. The mesa returned, the sound doubled. Comanche swept in close, lances flashing, cutting the map lines from men's startled faces. A trooper dropped to his knees, praying to a god who never studied these directions. The captain shouted, "Hold the square!" But squares break easily on round horizons. A rider's shadow crossed the captain's chest. The shadow left faster than the steel followed. Iron met flesh. The scream rose thin. The desert filed it carefully with the others. A standard bearer slipped, flag tangling in sage, glory dragged like cloth through thorns. Comanche circled wide, then tightened, hunting the gaps where discipline forgets breath. The soldiers wheeled their Gatling, brass teeth eager, confidence oiled and hungry. The gun chattered hell, sand kicked high, horses bucked, courage learned the weight of metal. Then dust boiled thicker, and the barrels overheated, coughing like liars losing voice. Comanche charged again, timing hearts to hooves, silence to the space between shots. A boy too young for raids rode anyway, jaw set, carrying his brother's unfinished promise. He passed a trooper aiming slow. The trooper blinked. Remorse arrived 1 breath too late. The wagon line caught fire where spilled powder crawled like impatient lightning. Sparks jumped to canvas. Flame walked the ropes. Steel glowed like fever without cure. A mule screamed and tore free, dragging a crate of shells toward judgment's open door. The blast rolled low. Bodies lifted and fell. Hats spun like brief, dark planets. Comanche pulled back to distance, watching iron learn humility under a simple sun. The captain staggered up, coat smoking, pride louder than the pain in his ribs. He called for a charge. The reply was coughing ash and men counting their courage. A Comanche woman on a swift pony crossed the field, gathering a wounded kinsman. The soldiers paused, stunned by mercy that moved faster than their drilled commands. A drummer boy beat time with shaking hands, his rhythm arguing with the earth. Comanche riders answered with a rhythm older, hoofbeats braided to the pulse of stone. A trooper fired into a mirage, hitting only heat. Deception is the desert's first language. Another lowered his rifle and stared at his reflection in a pool thin as truth. The captain rallied what he could, flags, fear, and the hard habit of obedience. Comanche scattered, then folded back like wings, cutting columns into separate fates. 2 soldiers ran for the wagon and tripped, swallowing dust and new understanding. A lance flashed under sunlight, quick as a verdict, and the verdict stood without appeal. The chaplain mouthed a psalm. The wind translated it into sand and silence. Comanche voices rose, not celebration, not hatred, the grammar of necessary fire. A rider chased the Gatling crew, then veered away, leaving them to their burning master. The gun spat sparks, seized, and died. A metal animal that never learned humility. Smoke thickened, turning distance into walls. The field became a room with no exits. The captain ordered fixed bayonets. As if steel could argue with geology and time, Comanche circled once more, then split the ring, riding through bayonets like sharp rain. A soldier grabbed a bridle and begged. The pony reared, choosing gravity over pity. The boy with the unfinished promise fell, smiling at a sky he finally trusted. His cousin lifted him gently, whispering that stories ride farther than bodies. A medic rapped a stump and whispered, "Forgive me to whatever gods share desserts." Powder ran low, thirst rose high, tongues swelled with the weight of unlearned lessons. Comanche drove the herd wide, dust cloaking their numbers like a second army. The captain's horse collapsed, ribs heaving. Rank means little to an honest son. He crawled to a canteen and found it full of sand. The desert poured him a final toast. A trooper tore medals from his coat, pockets suddenly too heavy for what was coming. Comanche spears tapped wagon rims, metal ringing like bells for a faithless chapel. The flagpole leaned and then burned, cloth sighing as it turned promise into smoke. A rider spared a wounded youth, seeing the same fear his brother once carried home. The youth watched him pass and learned a word the manuals never teach: proportion. Dusk bent the light. Fire coiled low. Vultures tested the air like cautious judges. Comanche gathered their fallen and sang, voices threading grief through cooling metal. The soldiers counted what remained: cartridges, breaths, regrets, and the shrinking shade. Night arrived without stars. Smoke wrote its own constellations above ruined wagons. A coyote called, and even the bravest men flinched at that small, perfect honesty. The captain bled quietly, finally humbled by the arithmetic of distance and water. He scribbled a line in his book. We mistook the map for the land. Then he slept. Comanche scouts rode the perimeter, listening for lies left hiding in sage and gear. The wind cooled. Steel cracked as it shrank. Bright barrels dulled into common failure. In the dark, a trooper confessed to no one that courage and panic share one heartbeat. A Comanche elder tossed sand over embers, closing the eyes of a fire that had seen enough. The wounded muttered homeward names. The canyon stored them like water in dry years. At dawn, the smoke thinned. Silence took roll. The desert marked present for all. Comanche riders stood on the ridge, silhouettes cut from the first gold of morning. Below, iron soldiers lay scattered, uniforms stiff with dust and stubbornness. A medic raised a white scrap. A rider nodded once, and help crossed the broken field. They lifted enemies carefully, because pain speaks one language, and it is not English. The captain awoke to shade from a Comanche blanket. Shame warmed him more than sun. He tried to say thank you. The rider answered by pouring water on the ground first. The land drinks before we do, his gesture said, and the captain finally listened. Reports later called it a clash. The wind called it a lesson written with hot nails. Quartermasters tallied losses. Ravens tallied truths. Black ink on bright morning. The field cooled. Steel dulled. The desert resumed breathing its steady ancient breath. Comanche rode away, leaving cairns of stone and a silence that could not be saluted. And the iron the soldiers trusted most lay rusting in sand. The desert's final signature.